Sparks that I don't remember. Hold and let it shine. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away. Fix and start to fade away.
Hello, dear friends of Kabala International. We are once again with our friend Mario Sabán. How are you, Mario?
Well, how are you, Nacho? How are you feeling?
Well, very well, very well. Very happy that we are here together today, dealing with a very interesting topic that I think is very important to deal with, that is very rarely worked on, which has to do with the function of Kabbalah in our daily life, in the times we live in. I would just like to make a small reminder about the etymology of the word Kabbalah, which comes from the verb lekabel, which in Hebrew means to receive. And in this sense, I would like us to go deeper into what it is that we have to receive today regarding the exercise and practice of the Kabbalah, and what it is that we have to receive today.
Well, first of all, there are many points that Kabbalah somehow helps us. First, I say that to live better. Undoubtedly, the central point why people approach Kabbalah today, as they did in the past. What happens that in the past, Kabbalah was very closed and people did not know this wisdom, right? We will talk about this if you want, but today there is a great need of people. There is a great existential emptiness, depressions, anxieties, people who do not know what to do with their lives. People who do not know what to do with their lives. So I think that the first question seems to me the fundamental one, that Kabbalah explains or at least gives tools to live better. I think this is for me, as I would say, the fundamental question, right? I mean, the first thing a person wants to do is not to be a good dentist, a good architect, but what he wants is to live well. And from there, the big question is to live well, because it is clear. To live well, we can say, well, many people can associate it to matter, to have, that Kabbalah is somehow not against having. But to live well, you need a different perception of reality, a perception of reality that makes you understand how they work, how reality works, how evil works, to have a very big development of your own personality, of free will, of subjectivity, in the sense that the person has to develop to the maximum potential. For the development of the maximum potential, you need a good self-esteem. Therefore, you work the self-esteem for the sake of developing that potential. So, of course, if you tell me, I believe that Kabbalah covers all the perspectives and tries to work all the dimensions so that the person reaches a point where she has inner peace and constant growth. I say these 2 points because there are many people who believe that inner peace prevents growth, that sometimes growth unbalances us and leads us to problems. And there are many people in the spiritual world who are against growth, because when we talk about growth, what do we talk about? We are undoubtedly talking about inner growth, but also about outer growth. That is to say, the outer growth is not compatible with the inner growth. It is a double-sided growth, we could say. It is not only inner, only that the outer should reflect the inner growth. Now, the inner growth unbalances us. Yes, of course it unbalances us. But in Kabbalah, we work the best training so that this imbalance is an imbalance in favor and not an imbalance against. That is to say, the imbalances in favor are those in favor of us and not against us. The imbalances in favor are those imbalances that you provoke in some way in order to grow, and the imbalances against are those that are provoked in some way and are out of control of your reality. You do not know what to do with them because you do not see the function they have. You do not understand well why these imbalances appear. Then I would say that Kabbalah also has an advantage of making us aware of the benefit of the imbalances. That is, what it means. An imbalance is an energy in the wrong position. When we are correcting that energy because we are focusing it better, then the person feels better and better. With which Kabbalah, we could also say that it helps to refocus or reinvest our inner energies so that they have the best performance It is not like what happens many times in the economy, that when the bank tells you, well, I want the best performance, this is at a global level of your global life. In the spiritual world, how do I get the best possible performance from my life? What is my potential? What is the potential that is dormant? There are many people that unfortunately that dormant potential, instead of developing it, is blocked for 1,000 reasons that can be analyzed, and when it is blocked they end up frustrated. So suddenly you see many frustrated people, and many people frustrated by their own self-blockages. So what does Kabbalah do there? Well, let's see the blockages. Where is it? Where is there a sclerosis, to call it in some way, of energy? I mean, I believe that one of the things that I particularly found in Kabbalah, and many students that come to the school find, is the possibility to develop without limits, without any limits, your own potential. But it does not sell you this as a chimera, as an illusion of self-help, because on the other hand it tells you that you have to work a lot. I would say that it is not a magical act to change the level of consciousness and the development of the potential. It is a very responsible act, very conscious. Consciousness is against magic in the sense that consciousness is a reality of taking action and committing to this training, and what Kabbalah does is to have, in my opinion, a responsible spirituality that commits you to say, I am not going to pray to such and something will move. No, you have to do a work of change of perception. We can talk about it later if you want to, at some point in time. If you want to do it, you have to do it. We can talk later if you want at some point about what we would call magic within Kabbalah, but we would be talking about something else. You have to do a work of perception, of change of perception. We have to refocus the energies. We have to better understand how evil operates within this reality. And from all these issues that we deal with specifically, the person is really being happy without losing reality. That is, it is not a utopian happiness, which you have to find in the higher universes, but it is lowering the light of the higher universes to this reality of matter.
There is a fundamental aspect that seems to me essential of what you are saying, which has to do with the fact that in some way many of the processes that we are living nowadays are linked to a lack of sense of life. That is, people do not know why they are living, people do not know why we are living, or many people do not know why they are living. And that generates processes of uneasiness, sadness, emptiness. And in this sense, I believe that Kabbalah brings an essential special meaning and a possibility to work to search for this meaning.
And above all, Nacho also provides you with maps. That is to say, for me, the map of the tree of life is a fundamental map of deep understanding of the soul. When you have a map, that map is then embodied when you practice it. If you train yourself a lot in the map of the tree of life with its 10 dimensions, you practice it and you see how effective it is in the field of experience, then it is not only that the Kabbalah makes a theoretical declaration of principles of faith, because the Kabbalah is a practical knowledge, it is an experiential knowledge, so I believe that in the end, in order to understand the human being, to understand the tree of life, we have to be able to understand it. We have to understand it. At the end, the human being to understand emptiness, because it is not to get out of emptiness. Look how curious what is raised here and what is the function of emptiness. People say, well, I feel empty. And in Kabbalah we say, well, we congratulate her. How do we congratulate someone who feels empty? The guy feels bad. He is on the verge of not understanding what is happening in his life. But if someone understands the function of emptiness, if someone understands the possibility that one has of growth, because where is the fallacy, the most terrible thing of our perception? We work in general always for results. In fact, when one goes to school, it does not matter that one did not learn anything. It matters if one has a good grade. So I have the memory for a good grade. I got a good grade, and my father already congratulates me. Now, my father does not ask me if I understood something. My father does not ask me if I understood something. My father wants to know what the grade is, and the teacher doesn't ask me if I understood something. It means that I can have an incomprehensible life, having good grades, simply because I have memory. So here you realize where the trap is. The trap is that if we don't have concrete results, especially from the social aspect, that society gives you this result. It's like we are worthless. Our self-esteem is on the floor. And what we have to understand about life is that it is a process where one has to have an inner enjoyment of this process independently of the result. I don't care if they give me 8, they give me 2. Well, I failed, but what matters to me is if I understood the subject. Maybe I understood the subject and they give me 2. Maybe the one who didn't understand me is the teacher, who is the one who gave me the 2. It is the teacher who didn't understand, but I understood it. So the question is, what do we want? Do we want to get an 8, or do we want to understand the subject? The best thing is to understand the subject and get an 8. It is clear. But what people have to understand is that sometimes the results in life do not appear, because the external results do not have to mark the level of value I have. The level of value I have has to be a totally internal value. And when I have inner courage, even if the results are negative, I have the strength so that in the end the results are positive. That is what happens, and this is something that I find very curious, is that there are 2 types of positive results. The inertial positive results, that is to say, I learned it by heart and I had a positive result, and the background positive results. Because in the end, Nacho, life is a long-distance race. A long-distance race, which means that one has to keep growing in one's inner growth all one's life. I know people who want to be golf champions and they have a golf cup, a second golf cup, and they can show me 80 golf cups. Now the question is, are you happy playing golf, or is this just a race to find cups? If it is a race for results, the problem of the result is that it does not satisfy you, because the day after the result you may feel worse than ever, because it is an ephemeral happiness.
For me, there is a conceptual error, and you helped me to reflect on it from what you said about emptiness and congratulation when one feels empty. There is a conceptual error in believing that inner emptiness is inner emptiness, being in reality superficiality. The problem, I believe, lies in the fact that the life in which the system proposes us to live is a life of superficiality, a life of results, a life lacking in depth, where the result is valued more than the learning, than the experience. In short, that the growth is real.
Totally, and where is the issue? The issue is that the fear of not understanding this emptiness makes people go to the superficial, and then people find themselves between 2 emptinesses. The superficiality that is empty by itself, because it does not give any result. And when they return to their interior and find themselves empty, they say, but my God, this life is to shoot themselves, because I go out to the empty mall to buy everything I find. Besides going into debt on the credit card, I end up empty because it does not give me an answer to anything, and then I end up empty because it does not give me an answer to anything. I end up empty because there I have no answer to anything. But then when I go back home and I want to go deep, very deep, I find myself empty. So of course all this has to be rearranged. People have to be rearranged in their perception. We all have to rearrange ourselves, because where is the problem? The problem is that if I go to the surface to look for meaning, I do not understand the meaning of the emptiness itself, so I have to go to the emptiness itself and find the meaning. It is there, when one enters the emptiness itself, where the enigma of why many people sink into the emptiness and feel it as a nothingness is found, which leads to alcohol, drugs, and all the substitutes, because you have to sustain that emptiness in terms of nothingness, and then the emptiness in terms of all the possibilities. Precisely in the emptiness everything and nothingness is played. It is a curious subject, what happens in the emptiness. It is either the dark night or the light of infinity. Then there in this we could call almost duality, which manifests itself there but the vast majority. The first thing they do when they perceive something of this emptiness is to flee to the superficial, because they don't want to get in there, because if they get in there, they already understand that they are going to find darkness, when we know that we have to get in there. But of course, who are the ones who went in there? The ones who went in there are the mystics. Then we already have centuries of mystics in the field of Judaism. That is to say, the great Kabbalists who went in there and said, you know what? There is light on the other side. But of course the other side is long the other side. I mean, it is not that you take 2 steps. It is not 2 steps in the dark night. It is a long dark night until you find the light. So of course there are people who get in there, and for 6 months they say, I am leaving here because they lied to me here. It cannot be. Here I do not see any light. But the great mystics are telling you, but there is light. Try to see what is there. Keep walking. Keep walking in the dark. It is not sadism.
It is real.
It is real.
It's true. What happens is that while you were talking about darkness and emptiness, how to escape from a primordial aspect of creation,
You can't escape from the structure of creation. You can't escape from the law of gravity. You can't escape from reality. That's why I often think that the camera approaches physics and leaves the mind in front. And I undoubtedly believe that psychology has to be revised, because it seems to me that psychology performs in some sense some kind of unnatural loop. That is to say, our mind in our levels of abstraction, when it cuts the relation with reality and disconnects, it starts to know the mind, and it goes alone. It goes alone, as let's say it disconnects from reality, and you can see it in the theoreticians of the universities, in the theorists of ideologies, of revolutions, how the mind loses itself in a kind of self-seduction that the mind has. Because a negative self-seduction, where in that self-seduction the mind starts to leave reality, and it is as if it starts to operate outside the physical laws, because no, physical laws practically do not exist there. The physical laws practically do not exist there. And when we come back to reality and we say, Opa, but here, then someone can tell me from philosophy, this is an absurdity. But the question is that people get up in the morning and go to work, and that the vast majority of humanity does not live as in an absurdity. They live really pushed by a desire. If you see the reality, and people are driven by a desire, even if it is poorly focused, because then you would have to see how to desire, we would have to see how it is focused. But it is that people have this innate desire. In the nature of the soul, in the nature of the universe, there is this desire. Then when you see this, then of course the mind has to do a very crazy job of blocking this desire. For me, nature gave us a desire that we cannot renounce. We cannot renounce nature. Look, there were civilizations and religions that have advocated we renounce matter. It has gone wrong. Others that said we renounce sex. It has gone wrong. Every time someone wants to renounce a natural matter in the order of reality, it is as if he is denying reality. It is like denying reality. Reality cannot be denied. So what the Kabbalah does is, let's see, gentlemen, let's start from the basis of what reality is, what laws exist in this reality in which we have to operate, and our mind will say, well, I do not accept these laws, your problem, but the laws still exist. I cannot deny the law of gravity every morning. I have to get up and I have to accept it. Therefore, I think that the Kabbalah is a very different thing from the law of gravity. It's a spirituality that worked a lot on cosmogony physics, because the first thing it said is, let's accept the laws of nature. And let's not operate with a mind contrary to the laws of nature, but that the mind allows us to empower the elements within nature and not to go against it. And what we have done a lot is to block our mind to the order of reality, and this undoubtedly makes people end up dissociated, end up with a mind on one side and the reality that goes on the other. So I believe that the Kabbalah unifies the person at a very high point of this dissociation.
Well, I believe that having reached this point, we can reflect that the Kabbalah helps us to find meaning in our life, that the Kabbalah does not deny reality, nor the elements that make up reality, that obviously we cannot escape from the processes that are inherent and that come from creation, and that we have to go through this process of emptiness, that not superficiality, in order to continue deepening and following the path of growth.
That's right, that's right. This is the idea. We all have to be united here at this point. And well, I think the interesting thing is that with time, the results are coming and people clearly have high levels of inner happiness that they themselves expose, right? My
Thank you
pleasure,
very much,
Nacho.
Mario.
Thanks to you.